All right, Errol Barnett is in Washington with more on this story. Errol, with Rudy Giuliani out of contention for Secretary of State, who is favored to get the top diplomatic spot? And contenders Mitt Romney and John Bolton, of course, appear to be more in line with mainstream Republicans. Doesn't that risk upsetting Donald Trump's base?
It does, and I think that's why today we're hearing that Rex Tillerson, the chief executive of Exxon Mobil, will be meeting with the president-elect before Mr. Trump heads to the Army-Navy football game today. Now, Rex Tillerson, it's believed by the transition team, has international relationships that would essentially give him a head start as Secretary of State. The many dealings he's already had as the chief executive of Exxon, they feel would help him. But the relationship most people will be wondering about is his with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Rex Tillerson has been with Exxon since in this position since 2006, but in 2011 he negotiated an energy deal between Exxon and Rosneft, which is predominantly owned by the Russian government. Now, this deal, by Vladimir Putin's own assessment, is in the value of hundreds of billions of dollars. The following year, Rex Tillerson received the Order of Friendship from the Russian government. So he is literally a friend of Russia. And in the wake of these reports of the CIA assessment that Russia influenced the U.S. election and wanted Mr. Trump to win, this choice would be seen as controversial. It would fly directly in the face of Mr. Trump wanting to appear as if he is not trying to build his cabinet with people who are friendly toward Russia. Mitt Romney in 2012 called Russia the biggest international threat to the United States, and John Bolton, the former UN diplomat, was an Iraq war hawk, something that Mr. Trump said he was against. So if Tillerson was selected as Secretary of State, you could say that it matches up mostly with Donald Trump's worldview.
All right, Errol, one last question for you. Who might we see get tapped for the Trump cabinet next?
Well, we are hearing that Gary Cohn, who has been the president and chief operating officer at Goldman Sachs, is in line to be pegged as the National Economic Council chair. Now, this would be the third executive, or we should say third employee from Goldman Sachs to be appointed into Mr. Trump's cabinet. The first being Steve Mnuchin, a 17-year veteran of Goldman Sachs, who will be the Treasury Secretary, and Steve Bannon, who was a former Goldman trader who we know has been very close to Mr. Trump and will serve as a senior advisor. This would actually do more to upset the base that you mentioned because Donald Trump campaigned on a message to drain the swamp. He blamed a global establishment and a global elite for the world's economic problems, the housing crisis, and the uneven returns since the recovery. Goldman Sachs has been front and center in all of that. So Donald Trump supporters, specifically those working class Americans in the Rust Belt who've lost a lot of their manufacturing jobs and have essentially voted for Mr. Trump on the hope that he would be able to bring economic stability back to them, to, quote, make America great again, would likely be upset that Mr. Trump is filling his cabinet with so many of the same people who were responsible for the financial crisis in the first place. So we can look for some of those announcements coming up this week.
All right, well, I'll be watching. Errol Barnett in Washington. Errol, thank you and good to see you.
Sure, good to see you.